Welcome to lesson 5.2, arcs and central angles in a circle. We're going to be learning some fun stuff today, and we're going to be learning all about arcs and central angles of a circle. You knew that was coming. You saw it coming. I still did it. That's what's up. All right, so let's learn what a central angle is. A central angle, to put it simply, is just an angle formed at the center of a circle. So you got an angle right here. It's at the center. That is our central angle. Now, to be a little formal with you, let's get all mathy on this. A central angle is an angle formed by two radii with the vertex at the center of a circle. So if this is the center, these two lines right here must be the radii. That means radius, but plural. All right? And the vertex is right in the middle. So this is a central angle, right here in the middle. Now, this also forms something called an arc. And the arc is just this portion of the circumference that we see right here. It's just a part of the circumference. All right? It's the outside part. And the really important part that you need to know right now, this is the big thing, is that the measure of the angle, the measure of the central angle, is always equal to the intercepted arc. All right? That means if angle ABC, my central angle, is 100 degrees, then the measure of my arc is also 100 degrees. And that's just how it works. Now that's what we're going to be focusing on for the most of this lesson, okay? Central angles and arcs and their measures. And we know that they're equal. But something that's really going to help us out today is this fun fact. And that fun fact is something you probably know. But there are 360 degrees in a circle. All right, that is your fun fact for the day. But this is going to be very helpful. Let's put a little helpful sign next to that. And let's put a nice little happy face like that. Whoop! This is going to be helpful. Okay, so let's get into the lesson. All right? We want to find, in this question, the measure of AB, and that little symbol right there, you see this thing right here? That means arc. That symbol means arc. We want to find the measure of arc AB, and arc, that means arc over there too, ADB. So let's start with arc AB. So arc AB is right here. Okay, we go from A to B. Now, since the central angle is 50 degrees, we also know that the arc is also 50 degrees. Arc AB is also 50 degrees. Now, the second part of this is asking us for ADB. And to figure out what ADB is, and that says arc, we have to go around the circumference. So we go from A, we keep going, we keep going, we keep going. We go to D, we keep going, we keep going, we keep going, and we go to B. All right. So it wants to find the measure of this part of the circle, this arc. Now, how are we going to be doing that? Because we don't know the central angle. Well, what you can do is, if you know the whole circle is 360 degrees, you take 360 and you subtract 50 from it, right? We'll subtract this part of the circle, so we're going to subtract 50. And when we subtract that, we get 310 degrees. And that makes sense, right? Because if this part of the arc is 310 and this is 50, then all the way around is 360. That's it. That was the first part. Now for the second part, we're going to find the measure of arc NPM, which is right over here, and then the angle of NLM, this very flat looking line, angle. So let's start with finding the measure of this this line. All right. Well, this is a straight line, right? There's no like real angle there, and we should know this. But a straight line is 180 degrees. All right. And so if this is a straight line, this is 180 degrees, and that would also imply that this part right here, this whole arc, is going to be also 180 degrees. And doesn't that make sense? That's the reason that this is 180 is because that is a straight line. Now, something that's going to come up today that you should probably know is that a straight line that goes through the center is the diameter. All right, so a diameter, if you know that this is the diameter, that also always makes 180 degrees. That will be helpful for you guys. All right, that is our diameter. All right, let's try some more challenging problems. We want to find the measure of angle DCB, which is right here, DCB, that is our angle right over here, and then the measure of ACD, which is our angle right over here. Okay? Well, let's start with DCB. Well, since the arc that's formed right here is 32 degrees, we also know the central angle is 32 degrees. All right, that was pretty straightforward. Now to find this missing angle right here, what we're going to need to do is, since this is a straight line, we're just going to do 180 minus 32, and that gives us 148 degrees. So that tells us that this is 148 degrees. Let me put 148 right there. And that should make sense, because if this whole line is 180, we do 180 minus 32 would give us 148. And if you add these two together, 32 plus 148, that would give you 180 degrees back again, right? Okay, final part. Let's keep going. We're going to find the measure of arc AD, which is right here, and arc AE, which is right over here. Now this one's a good challenge for us. I like it, okay? Well, let's look at this problem. What we know is that this angle right here is 40 degrees, but we want to find this arc. The way we could do that is this. We know, and this is from lesson 3.5, which some of you might not have done, but we learned that vertical angles are always congruent. So if you ever have this X looking thing right here, you see how we have an X? These angles opposite each other are congruent. All right, so and I'm going to just put a note there that you should put down too. Vertical angles are congruent. So if this is 40, the one across from it is also 40. Vertical angles are congruent. Well, if we know that this angle is 40 degrees, then we know that this arc must also be 40 degrees. See what happened there? Now, here's where we start getting a little trickier. We want to find AE now. To find AE, I want to show you something. I'm going to just have to erase this though real quick. All right, let's get this out of here for a second. If this is 40 degrees, and we also know this is 40 degrees, but I want to find this arc right here. All right, we're going to have to do exactly what we did in our last part of this. Hold on, I'm redrawing it. Well, since this is also, once again, this is a straight line, right? We know that this has to be 180 degrees. So to find out what this angle is now, all I have to do is 180 minus 40 again, and that gives me 140 degrees. And that's a big tip I can give to you. If you ever see a straight line, you know that the angles are going to have to add up to 180. So that's going to be really helpful. So let me see if there's any problems in this lesson that might be helpful for. Like over here, you're going to be doing some independent practice. You know that these two have to add up to 180 because that's a straight line right there. You could also say that for here. You know that these two are going to add up to 180. So is the arc, because they are straight lines. All right, just a little tip for independent practice. Now the second part of our lesson is called the Inscribed angle theorem. Like what just happened there? That's movie magic for you. An inscribed angle is an angle on the circumference of a circle. So before the angle was on the center of the circle. Well, now they're on the outside of the circle. All right, right over here. So this is an inscribed angle. You should be able to note that, see how it's on the outside. Now before we knew that a central angle was equal to the arc. This one's a little different. In this one we know the measure of an arc is going to be twice the measure of an inscribed angle. All right? So if I know, let's say that this inscribed angle is 20 degrees, all right? If I multiply that by 2, because the arc is double it, then I know that my inscribed arc is 40 degrees. All right? It's always just double. So that this inscribed angle is 20, my arc is 40. It's double it. So let's put B is equal to 20, angle B is 20, that was given to us. The arc is 40. All right, so we see the difference here. Now we're going to be using this formula a lot, so keep plugging into it, okay? We're going to write this down before we do anything. So in this case, we want to find the measure of DG, from D to G, this arc right here. Well, since this is an inscribed angle, see how it's on the outside of the circle, on the circumference, we know that the arc is going to be double the inscribed angle. So let's do the math here. 2 times the inscribed angle equals the intercepted arc. All right, we'll put this as x. So 2 times 50 is equal to x. We know that 100 degrees is going to be equal to x. So our inscribed angle is equal to 100. We just doubled it. See what we did there? Just doubled it. Now we can go backwards. For this one, we want to find the measure of angle B. That's the inscribed angle. But we know that the arc is 120 degrees. So this is our x this time. So what you do here is we say that the intercepted arc is 120 and our inscribed angle is x. Well, 2 times x equals 120. If we divide both sides by 2, x equals 60. All right. Now, an easier way to do that is if you know the arc length, just divide that into 2. Right? You just divide it by 2. It's half the length. So 120 divided by 2 is 60 degrees. For our final problem, you're going to see something like this. This one tells us that ACB has a measure of 148. Find the measure of angle C, which is right here. Well, what they're giving us is that ACB, right over here, that's ACB, and that's 148 degrees. But that doesn't help me find this angle. We got to know what this part of the angle is, this arc, to find out what the angle is. Well, you might be thinking right now how to do this, and what you do is you take 360, because that's the whole circle, we subtract 148, and that gives us, let's see, I got to do this in my head, 212 degrees. I think I'm right there. So we know this arc is 212, right? Because 212 and 148 gives us 360. Well, now that we know this whole arc, all we have to do is take 212, divide it into 2, and that gives us 106 degrees. So we know the measure of angle C is 106 degrees. All right, so that's it for this lesson. Remember, it's important to distinguish the difference between inscribed angles, which are on the circumference of the circle, or on the outside of it, and central angles, which are in the middle of it. And if you know the difference there, you're good to go. So go kiss your mothers, tell you learned something in math today. Peace. Stay true to yourself. It's all in your heart. Yeah.